Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash. And for today's video, I am bringing you guys a very interesting video. And essentially, I was able to come across the original deleted pilot for The Flash. So these were scenes that were actually filmed, but then those scenes were slightly changed. So you could say there are deleted scenes for the pilot we saw, but even then, like, it's slightly different, and you guys will see why when I obviously get to them. The best way to describe it or explain it is pretty much like a Snyder cut to The Flash season 1 episode 1. So these were things which were actually filmed and edited, but it's quite different to the show we ended up seeing, or the episode we ended up seeing during season 1 episode 1, or the pilot episode. So yeah, for this video I'll be breaking those down, and I'll be telling you guys whether we should have actually ended up seeing them, or was it like for the better that they got rid of those scenes. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so with these screenshots, the ones on the left you see are the ones we saw on the screen, and if they say TV version, then it's the one we saw on the show, and the ones on the right, or if it says pre-aired version, then it is the cancelled one which we haven't seen. So firstly, going over during the first minute and 14 seconds, we have this alternate shot of the Allen house, which you guys can see on the right hand side. And yeah, as you guys could notice right away, the two houses are very different from each other. In the TV version, the room is entirely dark, and then two speedsters run into the scene. But in the pre-aired version, the lights are still on, and so is the living room. Now personally for me, I prefer what we actually saw. I really like the idea of having like everything dark, and then we have these two speedsters just coming into the scene, and we would get these flashes of lightning all across the room, basically sparking all that light around. So I really like the idea of that, whereas if they had the lights around in the house, then it wouldn't have looked as good. So that is why I prefer the one that we ended up seeing on the show. But then we go on to 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and we get this longer shot in the TV version where Barry is running up in the streets as a kid, and this is right before we go from the past to present day, where we have Barry running into the crime scene while he is late. But over here we would just be getting 0.40 seconds of additional footage, so it isn't really that much. It wouldn't have mattered whether they added it or not added it. It's probably for the better that they took it out. As you guys could see, it's just 0.40 seconds, so it doesn't really matter. Now during the pre-aired version, we also have this extended footage between Joe and his partner, and this is when they are getting out of the bank where the robbery took place. So Joe West says, "Second robbery this week. They tell I did Clyde Martin as the shooter." And then Joe West's partner replies, "What? Oh geez, the Martin brothers are back." And then West's partner continues on to say, "Didn't we already put these two low lives in prison?" And then Detective West replies, "Yeah, on a 10 to 20 stretch, which in Central City's warped mess comes into 2 years time served." So yeah, this is a pretty interesting scene. It would have been cool if they kept this, but I do understand why they took it out, obviously so they could save more time for the runtime of the episode. And yeah, it is a pretty interesting scene, as I said, but it's only 5 seconds of additional footage, so again, it doesn't really matter. But as we go on to 3 minutes and 59 seconds, we have another alternate shot, and as you guys can see, CCPD looks a lot different on the pre-aired version compared to the one we actually ended up seeing on the show. For the pre-aired version, we would be getting this exterior shot of CCPD for 1.74 seconds, whereas the one we saw on the show lasted for 5.13 seconds. Now, although the pre-aired version of CCPD does look a lot more like a police precinct, I just prefer the look of the CCPD we have a lot more. It just looks a lot cooler, despite the other one looking more like an actual police precinct. But going into 4 minutes 4 seconds, we have this pre-aired shot which contains an extended shot of Barry in front of the computer, and the camera basically pans longer. Now personally, I'm glad that they took this out. I don't think this shot was really that necessary, or it wouldn't have affected that scene that much. Obviously some of these shots they just cut out for episode runtime purposes, But yeah, this shot is one of those that just didn't need to be there. But then we go into the 7th minute and 46 seconds, and we obviously had Iris's purse being stolen. This is some additional shots of Barry going after the guy who stole Iris's purse or whatever it was. I cannot really remember. As you guys could see on the screen, it says in the pre-air version, they both run down some stairs while chasing the perp, who makes a leap over some trash cans. The TV version immediately shows Barry near the trash cans, then running past the trash cans. Now, again, this is one of those scenes that wouldn't have mattered, although I would have rather had this on, just showing like, this skilled person and showing how much slower Barry is. And like seeing him struggle, it would have been something really, really cool to see. Now, this next shot is incredibly interesting, and I really wish that they kept this. But as we go into 11 minutes and 42 seconds, we have this longer shot of Barry being treated by the doctors. And this was obviously after he got struck by lightning. So as we can see, it says Barry longer in intensive care, close-up of his chest, plus a shot of him being handed an infusion bag. And as you guys can see, if we look closer at Barry's chest, you do see like a scar, and I'm guessing that's like the scar he got from the lightning. So I do really wish that they kept this, and we do have some extra dialogue as well, as we have the doctor saying he's SVT, pulse OX 80%. But yeah, I do really wish that they kept this. We didn't really see, like what happened with Barry during the time like he was on a coma and like after he got struck by lightning. So it would have been cool seeing like how the doctors react to all of this. Obviously we did get like a glimpse of it, we didn't get that much, but like if we actually ended up getting this scene, I think it would have been a lot cooler to see. And moving on, we do then have this different looking title card. Thank God we didn't end up getting this, because that logo was awful. The one we have on the show was miles better than that original title card. But as we go on to 16 minutes and 20 seconds, we have this pre-aired shot which shows Martin walking around in the bank, and then the two scenes were back in sync when Martin grabs the pen and fills out the transfer form. And this additional shot was just 4.41 seconds. Now we then cut to this area where Team Flash were going to test Barry's speed, and as you guys can see, this is 18 minutes and 59 seconds in, and we have this dialogue between Caitlin and Dr. Wells. Now in the TV version, as you guys could see on the screens, 6 seconds earlier, during a pan shot of the truck on the runway, in other words, the dialogue is off screen in the TV version. Whereas on the pre-aired version, we actually got to see both Wells and Caitlin's dialogue. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded either. It would have been cool if we got what we saw, or if we had Caitlin and Wells actually talking to each other. It really wouldn't have mattered because the dialogue would have still been there either way. Now, this next part isn't that interesting, but we get this air-to-air shot of Central City rather than just showing an exterior shot of CCPD. And same for these next two shots, they aren't very interesting either. We have Eddie Thawne approaching the witness with a cell phone, and we have this additional shot of Barry and Iris going for a walk until obviously Barry ends up saving Iris. But then during the 25th minute and 41 seconds, we have this additional scene of Barry confronting Martin, and this would have lasted around 4 seconds, so it's not really that big of a deal if we didn't get to see this. But this part, I'm actually mad that they cut this out. I wish they didn't cut this out. And it is an extended scene between Barry and Oliver. Obviously, during the thing we saw, we had Barry saying like, what if Wells was right? What if I'm not a hero, but a guy who's been struck by lightning? And obviously, we have Oliver motivating Barry as he says something like, you can do better because you can inspire people in a way that I never could. And he says some other stuff after that. I can't really remember. But this time, we have some additional dialogue. So yeah, Barry says, I was chasing a bad guy and someone died. And Oliver replies, if you really do this, you're going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes, but the good you do will far outweigh the bad. And then this leads to Barry saying, what if Wells was right? Now, I actually wish they ended up keeping this, and I wish we actually saw this section of the dialogue just to show, Barry that what he's doing won't always end up so bright, and that you could make mistakes so easily if the one thing just goes wrong. So Oliver warning him that you're going to make mistakes, but the good you do will far outweigh the bad things you've done. I really like that, and it's just something I wish that they kept, and it would have been like a moral lesson for Barry, if you know what I mean. Now in the next shot, this is around 34 minutes and 33 seconds in, and this is an extended shot of Joe and Eddie inside the barn as they look for Marden. And in the pre-aired version, we actually end up seeing Joe call Marden's name, whereas in the TV version we obviously didn't end up seeing that. So yeah, this is once again those scenes which isn't that big of a deal if we ended up getting it or not. And then we get this additional high angle shot of Marden, and he basically forms a tornado. Now this next one is very interesting because, as you guys can see on the news, the original headline says mysterious tornado wrecks farm, whereas in the pre-aired one we get red streak saves family. So that one is very interesting, and it leads me to believe that the Flash is beginning to become known to Central City during the end of episode 1, whereas in the TV show we saw he was becoming known near like episode 2 to 3. Turns out over here he ends up saving a family too, so that was something very interesting. But again, I prefer what we ended up seeing on the show. And then to end this, or to end the episode from the pre-aired version, we have this closing shot of the Flash with the pre-aired logo, and then we end off with the pan shot of Dr. Wells entering the time vault. Now overall, although some of these were really interesting, such as Barry being treated after he got struck by lightning, and then seeing the additional Oliver's speech, those were stuff that I really would have wanted to see, and I wish that we ended up seeing that. But then the other shots, like, they weren't that big of a deal, and personally I would rather have what we ended up seeing on the show compared to what they had pre-aired, other than the 2 additional footages which I just mentioned, which was Barry after he got struck by lightning and Oliver motivating Barry even more. Those were things which I really wanted to see. But now it's your turn, guys. Be sure to tell me which scenes you guys would have liked to see from these pre-aired versions. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in my next video.